When we think about the American Revolution, certain names immediately jump out. Washington, Paul
Mhm.
Revere, Lafayette, the big ones.
Absolutely. The household names, they're central to the story we usually tell.
Right. But what if one of the most audacious, really critical special ops missions of the entire war, something absolutely vital, was led by an enslaved African-American man, someone whose name, frankly, should be just as known?
It's a powerful question, and it opens up a whole different layer of the revolution.
Exactly. And this isn't just about one individual, though we'll focus on him. It's really the story of thousands of black soldiers, men who fought for this nation's freedom while, still waiting for their own.
A profound paradox right there at the heart of it all.
So today we're doing a deep dive into the legendary 1st Rhode Island Regiment, and specifically a man named Jack Sisson. He deserves way more recognition.
He certainly does. And to really get why his story and this mission is so incredible, we need to set the scene. Think 1777. The revolution. It was, well, hanging by a thread. Washington's army is at Valley Forge, freezing, starving, morale is rock bottom after some big defeats.
A really desperate time.
Utterly desperate, troop numbers were plummeting, the whole dream of independence felt like it might just fizzle out, conventional warfare wasn't cutting it.
And wasn't there a specific crisis brewing in Rhode Island, too?
Oh, absolutely. Rhode Island was in a terrible spot. The British had grabbed Newport, which was their main port, a really strategic location.
Huge blow.
Massive. And the British commander there, Major General Richard Prescott, he was infamous, not just a military figure, but known for being personally nasty.
How so?
Reports of him striking civilians on the street if they didn't, show deference, tossing American patriots into these awful, squalid jails, just constant oppression. You felt the occupation under him.
Wow. So military disaster looming and this local tyranny happening. And then things got even worse tactically, right?
They did. The British scored another major coup. They captured Major General Charles Lee.
Washington's second in command. That's a huge loss.
Monumental. And it created this massive strategic headache. Back then, prisoner swaps were strictly rank for rank. You needed an equivalent officer to trade.
And the Americans didn't have a captured British general of Lee's stature.
Exactly. No one suitable. So, Washington's number 2 is stuck in British hands. What do you do? What's the, unconventional solution here?
Okay, I'm guessing it wasn't asking nicely.
Not quite. The thinking became, well, pretty radical. If you can't trade for a high-ranking officer,
You go get one yourself.
you go capture one, an eye for an eye, general for a general. It was audacious, born purely out of desperation.
So who hatches this incredibly risky plan to snatch General Prescott right out from under thousands of British troops?
That falls to Lieutenant Colonel William Barton. He was a leader in the Rhode Island militia, clearly a guy who thought outside the box.
And his plan must have seemed, well, almost crazy given the odds.
Oh, completely. Think about it. Prescott isn't just wandering around unprotected. He's on a Quidneck Island.
Which is basically British territory.
Heavily fortified British territory. Thousands of redcoats, thousands of Hessian mercenaries, those German soldiers the British hired. Plus, the Royal Navy's got warships all over Narragansett Bay.
So frontal assault is just impossible.
Totally impossible. Suicide. This had to be about stealth, speed, and just unbelievable nerve from everyone involved. It was a long shot, to say the least.
Okay, so Bart needs a team. How does he assemble it?
Early July 1777. He puts out the word, calls for volunteers from the 1st Rhode Island Regiment, doesn't give away the full plan, just hints at, an enterprise against the enemy.
And how's the response?
Apparently very strong. There's this claim the entire regiment volunteered. Now, that might be stretching it a bit for dramatic effect.
Sure, bit of historical flair, perhaps?
Right, but it definitely shows the men were eager, courageous, ready for something bold.
So from this pool, Barton picks his crew.
He does. Carefully selects about 40 men. And this is interesting. It was a mixed group. White soldiers, black soldiers, working together, which tells you something about the realities on the ground, even then.
And this is where Jack Sisson comes in, right? Is a key part of this hand-picked team.
Absolutely central. Jack Sisson. He was enslaved at the time, living in Tiverton, Rhode Island, legally owned by a Thomas Sisson.
What do we know about him personally?
Descriptions say he was tall, strong, muscular, sometimes called Tack or Prince by the others. But the crucial thing, the reason Barton needed him, his skill with boats.
A pilot.
An exceptional pilot. Knew Narragansett Bay like the back of his hand. He was so vital, Barton put him in charge of steering the lead boat, the one Barton himself was in. His skill was non-negotiable for this to work.
Okay, so the team is assembled. Sisson's at the helm of the lead boat. Tell us about the raid itself.
July 10th, 1777.
Right. They chose the perfect night. No moon, pitch
Mm.
black, ideal for sneaking around. 5 whaleboats set off.
Whaleboat small, fast. Exactly. And they did something clever. Wrapped the oars in sheepskin, baffled them to keep them quiet.
Smart, to avoid the warships.
Crucial. They had to row right past British ships, past sentries on the shore. Absolute silence was key. Imagine the tension in those boats just gliding through the dark.
Holding your breath the whole way.
Absolutely. And Sisson's navigation here, instrumental. He guides them through the darkness, using currents, knowing the shoreline, avoiding patrols. He gets them safely ashore on Aquidneck Island, right near the Overing farmhouse.
Where they knew Prescott was staying.
Correct. He was known to sleep there, away from the main garrison, thought he was safe.
So they land. What happens then?
They approach the house stealthily, but bump into a sentry. Quick thinking kicks in.
Okay.
One of Barton's men calls out something like, "Friends, seen any deserters about?" Just a quick ruse to buy a second.
Brilliant stall tactic.
Just enough time, because then Jack Sisson moves, fast, decisive. He grabs the sentry, physically overpowers him before the guy can make a sound, raises the alarm, neutralizes the first line of defense right there.
Wow. Incredible nerve.
And then they swarm the house, surround it, but the front door is locked, bolted.
An obstacle.
Momentary one. Because this is where the legend really takes hold. The story goes, and it's repeated in several accounts, that Sisson, seeing the locked door, didn't wait for an axe. He used his own head as a battering ram.
Seriously. He rammed the door with his head.
Smashed it open, that's the legend. Whether it's literal or maybe he used his shoulder, the point is, his forceful action broke the door down, allowed the team to rush inside.
And Prescott.
Completely stunned, dragged out of bed, barely dressed. They grabbed him and his aide-de-camp within minutes. The whole thing inside the house was over incredibly quickly.
That is just astounding. The courage to do that, ramming the door.
It really is. In the dark, knowing discovery means almost certain death or capture. It's pure, raw bravery.
And the escape, getting Prescott off the island.
Just as flawless as the approach. They hustled Prescott and his aide back to the boats, launched back into the bay, and rowed away. Got back to the mainland without losing a single man, not one casualty.
Absolutely incredible execution. A perfect raid.
It really was. And strategically, a massive win. Prescott was eventually exchanged for General Lee. The official swap happened April 21st, 1778.
So the mission achieved its primary objective. Got Lee back.
Directly. It proved that this kind of daring, unconventional operation could work, could solve major strategic problems. A huge morale boost, too, I imagine.
You know, finding stories like Jack Sisson's, these moments that are just hiding in plain sight but really shaped history, that's exactly what we aim for. And honestly, for more incredible deep dives like this, uncovering hidden histories and just getting insights you won't find elsewhere, you really should check out Mind Expansion Daily.
They do great work digging into these kinds of topics.
They absolutely do. Go visit Mind Expansion Daily. Seriously. Like their stuff, subscribe. You'll keep getting these fantastic explorations that genuinely broaden your perspective. It's worth your time.
Definitely. And Sisson's bravery, this whole raid, it didn't just exist in a vacuum. It had ripple effects. It connects to a bigger story. Well, you have Sisson's courage on display, and you still have the Continental Army desperate for soldiers. This contest helped push Rhode Island towards a really landmark decision in 1778.
Which was?
The Slave Enlistment Act, a groundbreaking law for its time. It basically said enslaved men in Rhode Island could enlist in the Continental Army.
And in return?
They'd get their freedom. Service equals freedom.
Wow. That's huge. And that directly impacts the 1st Rhode Island Regiment, doesn't it?
Fundamentally transforms it. This act leads to the formation of companies primarily made up of black soldiers within the regiment. It becomes known, informally at least, as the Black Regiment.
Though it wasn't exclusively black soldiers, right?
Correct. Important point. It still included white soldiers, and also Native American soldiers served bravely alongside them. But the influx of black recruits, freed through service, gave it this distinct identity, a truly integrated unit, in many ways ahead of its time.
And Jack Sisson himself, did he formally enlist after this act?
He did. About a year after the Prescott raid, he officially enlisted. So he went from being this crucial volunteer, this guide, to being a private, a soldier in the ranks of this regiment he helped make famous.
So he's now fighting not just as part of cause, but directly for his own legally recognized freedom.
Exactly. He becomes one of, estimates say, about 5,000 African American patriots who served in the Continental Army during the Revolution. Their motivations were complex patriotism, opportunity, and yes, the fight for personal liberty.
It just hammers home that incredible irony, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Fighting for liberty in a land that still practiced slavery. Sisson embodies that struggle, fighting for the nation's ideals while also fighting against its deepest contradiction.
It's fascinating how individuals like him had to navigate that, believing in the principles of freedom enough to risk their lives, even when those principles weren't fully applied to them. That takes a certain kind of conviction.
Absolutely. So this newly constituted regiment, the Black Regiment, they saw significant action, right?
Oh, yes. Their most famous, defining moment probably came in August 1778, the Battle of Rhode Island.
What was their role there?
A critical one. They were positioned on the American right flank, and they faced repeated ferocious charges from Hessian mercenaries. Elite troops.
And how did they hold up?
Magnificently, they stood their ground like rock, repelled 3 separate Hessian assaults. 3 times the Hessians charged, 3 times they were thrown back by the 1st Rhode Island.
That's incredible resilience.
It was crucial. Their stand prevented the American flank from collapsing, which likely would have turned the battle into a rout. Instead, it allowed the rest of the American forces to conduct an orderly retreat. They essentially saved the army that day.
And they must have received recognition for that kind of valor. Sisson was there, right?
Sisson was among them, yes, and the praise was widespread. There's even this story, maybe apocryphal but telling, that the Hessian commander was so deeply humiliated.
At being stopped by this regiment, including black soldiers.
Exactly. That he was so ashamed he actually requested a transfer off that front. Whether it's literally true or not, it speaks volumes about the reputation they earned that day. Fierce fighters.
That's quite a statement. And their service didn't end there.
Not at all, and this is remarkable for any unit in the Continental Army. The 1st Rhode Island served through the entire war, right up to the very end.
Including Yorktown.
Including the siege of Yorktown, where the British finally surrendered, to stay cohesive, active, and fighting from those desperate early days all the way to the final victory. That demonstrates incredible endurance, commitment, and sustained courage. A truly exceptional record.
So what happened to Jack Sisson after the war? He got his freedom, as promised.
He did. He was formally freed for his service, lived a long life afterwards, apparently passing away at the age of 78. His life, from enslavement to this pivotal role in the war to becoming a free man, it really mirrors the complex, contradictory birth of America itself.
It really does.
And his story, combined with the regiment's saga, it stands for so many others. Thousands of black patriots whose contributions have just been, sidelined for too long in our history books.
Forgotten, almost.
Or minimized. They fought for liberty, for equality, ideals often denied to them personally. But they helped shape the nation anyway, a nation still grappling with fully realizing those ideals. And it makes you wonder, doesn't it?
What else is out there?
Exactly. What other stories, what other figures, what other crucial contributions are just waiting in the archives, waiting to be rediscovered and given their due?
It's such a vital point. Jack Sisson's story isn't some separate category called Black history. It is American history, period.
Unequivocally.
And it just proves that courage, skill, determination, these things have no color, no bounds. It's really a call to action for all of us, isn't it? To actively look for these hidden stories, to learn them, and to honor the sacrifices of all the people who built this country. So, thinking about everything we've discussed, what really stands out to you about Jack Sisson's legacy?